Okay, while we're waiting to get started, I'll just get you to say hi so that I know that you can hear me, and so then we can just get started, and then we're just going to do it. So today I'm going to show you step by step how to build a multi-million-dollar property portfolio, and that's without having to risk everything you've worked so hard for. I've probably got about 3 hours of content, and I'm going to try and cram it into 60 minutes. So I'll try and cover everything I can, but some things we may be able to go through in more detail than others. So here's what you're going to learn. We're going to start with where you are right now. I mean, really understand what it is that got us to where we are and what that means for getting us to the next stage. Then we're going to discuss the importance of educating ourselves. And then, what we need to know to get to where we want to go. We then examine our options based on where we are right now and our level of knowledge and experience. And then we decide on the direction and the best way to get from point A to point B in the shortest possible time without, with the least amount of risk. And once we have a clear understanding of where we are and how we're going to get there, then we look at how we're going to put it into action. Nothing's perfect, especially when you're just starting out. So we discussed how to refine our strategy and adapt it to ensure that the process is as easy as possible. And once you start to get some runs on the board, you then begin to build a team around you, and they can support and guide you, through your journey. And this is really the sweet spot, where you know where you are, where you're going, you've educated yourself, and then you can take action to get towards your goals. It's at this point that we have knowledge, not just theory, but practical experience, and then we can draw upon that then to minimize our risk, and this allows us to make greater returns. And once we've mastered one strategy, then we can then branch out to include other strategies. With repetition, and we can focus on expanding and adapting our strategy to build momentum to finally achieve our end goal. Finally, after I've taught you a ton of stuff, I'm gonna give you the opportunity to join my program. But the first thing to know is that I do get really excited about talking about property, and I talk really fast. So hopefully you're okay with that. So I can see a few of your names, and I can see a few of you jumping in on the last minute, and that's fantastic. So I talk really fast, but I really just, it's really just because I'm super passionate about what I'm talking about. During the presentation, well, this is the first time that I've done this, but I'm not really sure whether I'm going to do it again. It feels a little bit like I'm giving away my secret sauce, So take a ton of notes, and I haven't really decided yet whether I'm going to give a copy of the presentation afterwards. But if you hang around until the very end, then I'm going to tell you how you can get a copy of all the slides. If you're at the end, you just need to ask me, and I'll make sure you get a copy. So who am I? Well, I'm an international #1 best-selling author. I'm a speaker, a property developer, a real estate agent, a mortgage broker. I used to be an accountant, and most importantly, I'm a dad to 2 amazing boys, Miles and Carter. I've just seen a few more of you join, so thanks guys for joining. And is it okay just for today, for this webinar, is it okay if you just pretend that I'm just sitting there next to you, and you talk and make comments and give me feedback? Otherwise I'm going to feel like I'm just talking to a computer screen. Is that okay? Okay, great. Thanks. So before we start, I just want to ask you, what do you want to learn from this presentation? What are your goals? Is it what's your plans for retirement? Or what's your biggest problem? Is it you want to work less, or you want to set yourself up for retirement, or you just want to spend more time with your family? Which one is it? The reason I'm asking this is I can tailor the presentation to maybe answer some of these issues. So I want to ask you, what are you looking forward to most today? I want you to know that today I have one big goal. After today, I want you to come away with a clear understanding of what it takes to be able to build a multi-million-dollar property portfolio without having to risk everything you've worked so hard for. And I really want you to be able to achieve it. I know that some of you listening, you may have gotten to the point in your life where you just don't think it's possible for you. But I want you to understand that you can do this. That every single one of you out there, you can have the lifestyle you want, and set yourself up for retirement and take back your life. After all these years of helping people with their properties, I've begun to realize that although most people are initially focused on the money, it's rarely about the money. I mean, why are you doing this anyway? And usually when I ask this question, it's not about the money, but what the money can do for their lives. In a perfect world where money wasn't an issue, what would that world look like? Would it be a new house, a new car, or a new boat, or just no debt? How much do you need to make that a reality? But for most people, it's about something that's beyond value. It's about living the lifestyle they've always wanted. Less stress or more quality time, doing what they want to do when they want to do it. Sport, hobbies, or just hanging out with their friends and family, without having in the back of their mind, can you really afford this? We've got ourselves caught in this cycle where the more we work, and the more we achieve, the less time we have to enjoy everything we work so hard for. Can you remember when you're in your late teens or early 20s, it was if you could do whatever you wanted, whenever you wanted. It seems as if you could, if you had plenty of time and plenty of choices, but as we get older, rather than gaining more and more independence, it feels as if all we do is work and sleep. What would you say if I said that, there's a proven method for creating wealth so you can work less and earn more and create passive income to set yourself up for retirement? I'm talking about developing a plan to get you from where you are right now to where you want to be. To get there, you need to be clear on what this new life looks like. What hours do you want to work? What time do you want to start and finish? Are you balancing a family? Do you want to go travel? Literally designing our plan around what we want and how we want to get there. And the last thing is contribution. How can we give back? For many people, that's asking ourselves, how can I give back to my family, or how can I give back to my community? Some people like to go to church or volunteer or help the homeless. Wherever it is, I'm talking about designing your future around these three things so you can live the life you want on the terms that suit you, so you can contribute. So my promise to you is this. I'm going to show you there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and show you how you can go from just getting by to being in control of your own destiny. So you can do what you want, when you want, and set your family up for, set them up for the lifestyle they deserve. So before I start, I just want to know whether this sounds like you. And if it does, I want you to write in the chat box, okay? So does it seem to you if everyone else is lucky? There's just no way that you can make money from property. Or maybe, what happens if it all goes wrong and I lose everything? I can't afford to start again, but I'm worried that if I don't do anything, I won't have enough money for retirement. Or maybe, I know it's possible, but for years I've been researching and investigating and analyzing up to the point it's become overwhelming and I've done nothing. Or do you feel like it's too late? Like you've missed your chance to profit from property? If only I'd done it 5 years ago or 10 years ago or 20 years ago, it's gone. There's just not any profit to be made from property anymore. I've missed the boat. I want you to know that none of these things are the real problem. The real problem is you just don't know the system yet. You don't know the step-by-step system to identify the hidden value in your property and how to extract it. Once you do know how to do it, you're going to wonder, why isn't everybody doing it? You'll be able to see how to create value in property everywhere you go. It almost feels like a game where you have an unfair advantage. But the one thing you need to know is successful property investors, they don't depend on luck or chance. They have a system for creating value from property and leveraging that value to create more value. The power of property is, it's once you build a strong foundation to work from, the momentum starts to build and then your success becomes inevitable. Every decision we make must be compared against our key goals for income, lifestyle, and contribution. How can we earn the money that we want on the terms that that suit us, so we can contribute back. So I just want to start with, why you should listen to me. Since quitting my job as an accountant, I not only been involved in thousands of property transactions and hundreds of developments, but over the years I've collected a heap of skills, including my mortgage broker's license, my real estate license, and a builder's license. But this has put me in a really unique position that I can give advice on just about anything to do with property. And every day now I get clients such as Joanne, who came to me with a property that they knew they had development potential. They just weren't sure the best way to realize it. After years of unsuccessfully trying to profit, they just weren't sure what to do. So I assessed their property and I explained how I could help them develop their property and make over $900,000 in profit. We're now just waiting on the subdivision to go through. Or another example was, just 4 weeks after talking to Josh, he was over $100,000 richer. And it only took about 5 hours of his time. Well, Craig had money to invest, but he just wasn't sure. He just wanted to make sure he did it right. We analyzed his development and we showed him how we can make $130,000 profit without having to risk it all. Now, I know for some of you, this barely seems possible, but I can show you hundreds of examples where I've helped clients to achieve their goals. But I want you to know that, I didn't start out with this knowledge and experience. One of the reasons that I do what I do and why I write books and present to people is because I don't want you to go down the same path that I've been down. Because I know now that there's an easier way. It doesn't take 12 years of trial and error to get there. For me, my journey started after years of working as an accountant. One day, I read an article about how much money you need to set yourself up for retirement. It said that in retirement, you need 70% of your pre-retirement income. And so I started doing the numbers and I realized that if I was on $100,000 a year, then I need $70,000 a year in retirement. So if I was going to retire at 65 and die when I was 85, then I need 20 years times by $70,000 per year, which is $1.4 million. And then I started to think, how am I going to get $1.4 million when I want to retire? So I started looking at my options and to save my, if I wanted to save money through my super, but I just realized that, that wasn't going to happen because earning $100,000 per year, I had to live on bread and water for the next 30 years just to be able to afford to retire. And when you think about it, by the time you pay your bills and pay your mortgage, you're really only just covering the day-to-day costs of living, let alone setting yourself up for retirement. One day I said to myself, why am I doing this? It got to the point where I felt like I was only going to work for the money. I thought, that there has to be a better way. I mean, life should be for living, not for working. How could I get the lifestyle that I've always wanted? I wanted less stress and more quality time doing what I want and when I want to do it. It seems as if I never had enough time to do the things I wanted, whether I was playing sport or hobbies or just hanging out with friends and families. I could always hear in the back of my head, can I afford this? So I decided that for me, the solution would be property. I looked around for an opportunity, and when I saw it, I jumped in head first. My first property was an old house on a big block with had development and potential for 8 houses. With my limited funds and no experience, it was a high stakes game. But for luckily for me, it paid off. And then this experience then gave me the confidence to start sourcing more properties and building and renovating and subdividing into 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 blocks. But in reality, I just left my secure job as an accountant, supposedly for less stress, and set myself up for retirement. But instead, I was just taking these massive risks, and I just kept taking massive risks. Every time I did a development, I risked it all. It's now looking back with years of experience, I realized just how lucky I was that in those first few years. I got out a few close calls. Particularly after the GFC hit and all the rules of the game changed. Many of my friends who were far more experienced and cashed up than me, they lost it all. I wish I had someone to reach out to me, and said to me, I wanted to show me how, step by step, how to create value from property, and then build on it not only to set myself up, but to set my family up for the future. The future we deserve without all the stress of having to risk it all. I wish I had someone who found me and told me how I could do it. Then I wouldn't have had to spend 12 years of trying to work it out on its own. Now, after all these years and being involved with thousands of property transactions, I can look back now and know it doesn't have to be as difficult as I've made it out to be. And you don't have to risk it all to make it happen. The secret to achieving success through property is simple, and it comes down to two things. First, you need to identify undervalued properties, and then you need to extract that value. And once you've done it once, you can do it again and again and again. So today I'm committed to giving you value so you can go through both how to identify undervalued properties and how to pull this value out so you can go away with a clear plan to getting from where you are right now to where you want to be. The first thing to realize is that, properties are undervalued for several reasons, and they can be undervalued in both the short term and the long term. So what do I mean by that? Though, to create value from property, you can either renovate to increase the value of property, or you can build to create a property, or you can develop to multiply the property, or you can just buy and hold and wait for the market to go up. Or you can do a combination of any or all of these options. But what most people don't understand is that the first three options are only short-term strategies, and that they're focused on generating returns as quickly as possible. Whilst the buy and hold strategy is all about stretching out the length of the investment for as long as possible to ride out the ups and downs of the property cycle, and then reap the benefits of long-term growth. This is why it's vitally important to determine what you have to work with and how much time you have to make it happen before you start, because this will determine your best path to really achieve your goals. What you've got to work with before you start is going to have a massive impact on where you can get to and how you're going to get there. Your starting point will be determined by four factors. Your assets. Not just what you have on paper, but what you have to work with. Is that cash or your house or investment property or your car, your super? Although these are considered assets, they're all very different. They each need to be considered individually when considering your options. And secondly is your debts. Not just your debt, but the type of debt you have. Many consider that there's good debt and there's bad debt, but they say good debts are that's a debt and that's an investment in your growth, and bad debt that's a debt that's really holding you back. In fact, though, all debt is bad. It's just a matter of bad or worse debt. Our ultimate goal should be to free ourselves of the stress that debt brings us, and regardless of whether it's good or bad. The other thing to consider is not just our current level of debt, but our maximum borrowing capacity and what level of debt we can tolerate to achieve our long-term goals. And thirdly, is your income. Income is not only important as this will determine our ability to repay the loan and ultimately borrow more money, but also it's important to consider how we earn our income, because this is going to affect the way we choose to invest in property. Obviously, if you're working 100-hour weeks, you're going to have a lot less time available than if you were living on the pension with plenty of spare time. And finally, it's your expenses. We need to consider what bills we have to pay to maintain our current lifestyle. In the world of economics, they refer to expenditure as either elastic or inelastic. This basically means how flexible your bills are. So if you're a young person living with your parents, and then you're going to have a lot more options for reducing your cost than if you're supporting your partner and 3 kids. Where you've got very little choice of how you're going to spend your money. So now we know where we're at. Now we have to think about where we're going. Most people are focused on retirement. However, how long we have, it's going to be different for different people. Maybe 5 years or 10 years or even 40 years. But for others, it may be, I want to change jobs the next year. I want to cut back my hours at work or take a year off. The amount of time we have to get to our goal, it's going to have a dramatic impact on how we're going to get there. If you want to make it $1 million in 4 years, or that's going to take a totally different strategy than if you want to make $1 million in 40 years. And we also have to be really clear on what our goal is. Just saying we want to retire or work less hours or take some time off, it's just not clear enough. We need to consider exactly how much money we need or how many hours we want to work and have a clear vision of what that will mean for us. And once we have this vision of our long-term goal, we can then break it down into more achievable short-term goals, which that can set us up for the future. Okay, so we now know what we have to work with and we know where we want to go to. We have to work out how we're going to get there. Like I said, how we're going to get there is determined by a combination of resources, the resources we have to work with, as well as how long we have to achieve it. The other thing I haven't mentioned so far is risk. The more you want to make and the less time you have to make it, the more risk you may have to take. It's important when considering your options, you do it with your eyes open and not just look at all, not just look at the upside, but also what happens if it all goes wrong. All too often I talk to people that they only consider what the outcome will be when everything goes according to plan. But it's sometimes my job to consider what happens if it doesn't go according to plan. What's our plan B? Your level of risk is not only determined by the investment itself, but also your level of experience. An investment can be considered risky for someone who's never done a development before, but for me, it may not be risky at all, since I've done heaps of developments. Unfortunately, though, risk is something that can be overcome by investing in experienced mentors to guide you through the process to ensure all possible scenarios, both good and bad, have been considered and any risk have been minimized. And this is prior to starting. Okay, so how are we going to get there? The first strategy for creating value in property is to renovate the property. I've done heaps of renovations over the years, and the main thing I've learned, after all these years, is that renovating, it's just not for me. Personally, I'm not a tradie, and I don't want to be a tradie. It's just not something that I really enjoy doing. And I know that there are millions of people out there watching renovating shows, dreaming of renovating a house, but when you actually do it, you just realize it's a lot of hard work. And once you start, there are just so many things that can go wrong and cause cost and time blowouts and just creating a heap of stress. And you might say, well, that's okay, I'm just going to pay someone to do it all for me. And although you can pay someone to do the work, unless the job is big enough, to really justify the cost of a site supervisor, then you're going to need to oversee the work. And if you're standing there watching somebody else work, you might as well do the work, do at least some of the work yourself. And before you know it, you're going to be painting and digging holes or whatever. So anyway, this is just not my thing. This doesn't mean that you can't add value to a property by renovating. So I'm saying you shouldn't disregard it as an option. You just need to be aware that it is going to take some work. And the second option for creating value is buying a block of land or subdividing, creating a new block of land, and then building a new home on it. The reason this creates value is generally the cost of the land plus the cost of the house is usually cheaper than the price of the completed home. This means that once it's built, you have equity in it straight away. I call this the developer's discount. The reason I prefer this option to renovating is because starting with a clean slate. The builder should be able to give you a realistic estimate of what it costs to build. And once you've bought the land, decided on the plans and picked out the doorknobs and taps, then you don't really need to do too much else but sit back and watch the house be built. As well as the developer's discount, building has some other benefits, such as you got savings on stamp duty, you get a brand new house, so you're going to have less maintenance costs, and you're going to have a warranty on the house. So if anything goes wrong, you can just call the builder up and get it fixed. And the fact that you've got a brand new house, and you're more likely to have a better quality tenant. Then you're more likely to, they're probably more likely to pay higher rent, and they're going to maybe treat the house as if, maybe treat it as if they're his own, and then maybe they're going to stay a bit longer. So financially, there's a heap of benefits to building. So the third option is subdividing. This is something that most people I talk to are pretty interested in. But the thing is, most people I talk to assume that developers, they always make money. And ultimately see a lot of developers who either don't make money, or, and particularly mum and dad developers who they're just starting out, it can all go wrong. And it can all go wrong in a really big way. The thing thing I really like about developing is you don't really do that much. You might only do maybe 80 hours work over the course of the development, and it may result in you making, tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. So if you work that back to an hourly rate, you can earn some pretty crazy money. The problem is you need to invest some serious money to develop a property. You need, say, 20% up front to purchase, to buy the development side, and then you need 5% for the stamp duty, and then you need to pay for the demolition and the subdivision and all the interest costs. And so you may be talking hundreds of thousands of dollars, just to get started. And when you're investing this sort of money, it's really important to not make any mistakes. But unfortunately, when you're starting out, the only way to learn is from trial and error. So you can see now why I say, when I first started out, I risked everything on every development, and just how lucky I was able to scrape through some pretty close calls. This is why when you're starting out, it's vital to get a second opinion from someone who's risked their own money, and you can learn from their mistakes. So you don't have to. So the benefits of developing are obvious, but it's like you can create value out of nothing. Assuming you buy at the right price and can overcome all the risks and then sell at the right price. So I'm sure you're saying, well, this sounds awesome. Let's do it. But before we can achieve our goals, we're missing one piece of the puzzle. And that's to consider not only how we can create value in the short-term value, but how we can create long-term value. Ultimately, this is how we're going to get to where you want to go. Now, I'm sure that most of you have heard of the idea of property doubles in value every 10 years, but think to remember that although there are examples of where this is the case, when most people talk about it, they're talking about over the very long term. Property rarely goes up evenly over time. It may do nothing for a few years, and there's a quick jump, and then it'll cool off for a little while, and then do nothing for a few years, and then it'll kick up again. The thing is, it's really hard to predict what the market's going to do in the short term. In the short term, the price of property is determined by people's perceptions of what the market's going to do. So if people think the price is going to go up, then it's probably going to go up. And if they think it's going to go down, then it's probably going to go down. But in the long term, the property market is determined by supply and demand, which means that where there's lots of demand and not much supply, then prices are probably going to go up. Or vice versa. If there's lots of supply and not much demand, then prices are probably going to go down or maybe not go up so quickly. The important thing to remember that in the short term, the market can go up. It can go up and down for almost no reason. But in the long run, it's going to be determined by supply and demand. So although we can't control what happens in the short term, we can make decisions in the long run, which will align with the principles of supply and demand. So we can also benefit from long-term capital gains. Many people, they seem to really struggle to get property work for them. They either focus on short-term goals by renovating, building, or developing, or they focus on long-term goals by buying and holding on to properties and then just waiting for the market to go up. But the true value of property can only really be achieved by a blend of both, which results in the additional value from the development, allowing you to buy and hold more properties, which results in capital gains, which allows for more funds to create more value from the development. And then it all just starts to build on itself. But to be honest, where most people go wrong is they're doing none of what I've talked about so far. They say they want to do it, but they literally have no idea how easy it is. Or they've bought one property and they've done nothing else, or they've got themselves into trouble and they've decided it's never again. The secret to property is to do something. As I explained before, it's a combination of not only short-term goals, but building on the short-term value to create long-term gains. It's the long-term gains which, they consolidate our short-term gains and allow us to make more short-term gains, which allows us to make more long-term gains. It's just becomes a self-perpetuating cycle that, you can start to build on itself. You not only have one property, but you have 2 and then 4 and then 8 and then 16, or to some point in time when you want to retire, you can sell half of these properties and then pay down the debt in the others. So you can live off the income of these properties, debt free. So this is the point where you start to achieve everything you've ever wanted. But to make this happen, you need a plan. You need time to create it. And the earlier you start, the sooner you can make it happen. So at the start I said that I didn't want to talk to you about just about theory. I want to go into detail about how you go about building yourself a multi-million-dollar property portfolio. As I said before, property investors, they don't depend on luck or chance to make money. They have a system for making money from property designed to eliminate the element of risk from investing in property. It's literally taken me more than a decade to test and refine my strategy to the point that I know it works, and I know it can work for you. I call it the oak principle because I've modeled it on an oak tree. So what's an oak tree got to do with taking control of your life and building a multi-million-dollar property portfolio? Well, the strength of the tree comes from its root system. Just like the strength of your property portfolio is built on the foundation that's set in place before you start investing. This principle is about, it's not about making a quick buck today, but it's going to be gone tomorrow. Just as an oak tree can last hundreds of years, we want to build a strong base which will not only create financial security for you, but also for your kids and their kids. From the surface, it appears as if there's nothing happening, but it's in these initial stages, they're crucial to creating a lasting legacy. At this first stage, there are 4 steps. The first step is to analyze your existing structure, to consider not only your financial position, but also your borrowing capacity and the time you can commit to make, to the investing strategy. And the second step is to educate yourself, to all the options that are possible, whether that's going to be renovation or building or developing or buy and hold or a combination of all these. And the third step is to examine these options to determine which of these options they're right for you. But it's great to say that you can make all this money and retire, to retire rich, but if you're massively stressed and you can't sleep at night, then it's just not going to work. And finally, we can decide on a direction. You can map out a clear plan from getting you where you are right now to where you want to be. So once the root system is spread out in hundreds of directions, and we have a strong foundation, and we've laid a strong foundation, all of the tree's resources are then intensely focused on building a strong trunk. Just like the oak tree, once we've built a strong structure and educate and examine our options, we can then define a clear direction for all of our energy, and all our resources then can be directed towards one common goal. This path, it may be different depending on your starting points. Like I said, it may be focused on renovation or developments or investing, or maybe even setting up joint ventures, with other developers. Whichever path is right for you, the most important thing is to lay the groundwork and build on it with intense focus. The second stage I refer to is, it's about developing a clear approach. It involves 3 steps. The first step is to act. To be honest, this is where most people go wrong. They know they should invest in property. They've read a book or gone to a seminar, or they've seen their friends do it, but for some reason they just haven't taken that step to make it happen. Without action, you're never going to be able to develop your skills and experience that comes from actually doing it. And once you've done it once, you can do it again and again. Until you get to the second step, when you can look at refining your strategy. This is where you improve and evolve your strategy to ensure you're getting the best possible return for the least amount of effort. And the final step is, this is going to happen without even trying, really. It's develop a team. Your team could be made up of your accountant, your real estate agent, your lawyer, your surveyor. It could be tens or even hundreds of people that can, people that you know and trust, that you can rely on to give you the advice, give you advice whenever you need it. And the amazing thing about having a team around you is not only, they can give you advice and do a lot of work for you, but they can fast track your progress. So, you no longer have to learn from trial and error, because you can leverage off their experience and knowledge. And so you can learn from their trial and error, or even their client's trial and error. The value of this worth is so much more than the cost of their services, because when you're dealing with, one property mistake, it could cost you tens of, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, or it could even ruin you. So by focusing on a clear path forward, you'll be able to build on your skills and knowledge, and your support network and your resources to, it becomes a force that can't be stopped regardless of the environment. Only after establishing a strong root system and focusing on building a strong trunk, the oak tree then begins to branch out in all directions. When you hear of property investors losing everything, it's either because they didn't have a strong foundation, or because they branched out before they were ready. The reason that oak trees, they can live for hundreds of years, throughout generations is the massive canopy. It doesn't begin to expand until it can stand on a strong and stable base. Depending on your starting point and your level of knowledge and experience, some will be able to branch out, sooner than others. But the key is to master one strategy before branching out into the final stage, where this is where you've attained true knowledge. The final stage is built upon 5 steps. The first step, once you've achieved that strong foundation to support your portfolio, is to diversify into other strategies such as developments or commercial or industrial. And the next step is to repeat, to build skills in a new area or develop new expertise. The third step is to expand your portfolio into other areas, to broaden your investment strategy and open yourself up to new opportunities. And it's only once we've truly diversified your portfolio that we can then be in a position to be able to adapt to the market. The potential for this, can't be overstated. It's only when you've developed a range of skills and experience and you've diversified your property portfolio that you can then be able to build momentum and move with the market. You're not just trying to fight against it. It's at this point when you not only become immune to market movements, but you actually begin to look forward to them. As you'll be able to adapt your strategy to profit whether the market's going up or even if it's going down. Many people don't know that oak trees, they don't actually create acorns until they're fully mature, and this may not be for 20 years. There's some oak trees that don't generate an acorn for 50 years. Now, I'm not saying it needs to take you 50 years to build a multi-million-dollar property portfolio, but once you build a strong foundation, become an expert at one strategy, then leverage off this knowledge to diversify into other strategies. You can then build a legacy, which can not only pass down to your kids, but then they can pass down to their kids. So my promise to you at the start of this webinar was to show you that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and show you how you can go from just getting by to be in control of your own destiny. So you can do what you want, when you want, and set your family up for the lifestyle that they deserve. So far, we've gone through a lot of theory, and that theory, it's going to apply to 99% of people. In your situation, it's not that unique that this approach won't work for you. It's more about how you're specifically going to implement it. I want you to know that whatever your challenges are, I've seen it before, and I know how we can overcome them. So I've developed a program, based on the Oak Principle, to take people step by step through this proven method for creating wealth, so they can work less, earn more, and create a passive income to set themselves up for retirement. So wherever you are right now, I want you to know that we can get you to where you want to go. So what do you get in the Oak program? You can literally save years of your life and $250,000 in training. I've done more than 5,000 hours of study. I've done a Bachelor of Economics, Bachelor of Commerce, postgraduate in accounting. I've done a diploma in finance and real estate and building. I've listened to thousands of hours of podcasts, read hundreds of books. I've been to hundreds of hours of seminars and webinars. I've spent tens of thousands of dollars in mentoring. So even if you're twice as smart as me, you can do it half the amount of time, you're still going to be spending, 6 years and hundreds of thousands of dollars to get to where I've got right now. But also you get my experience. I've done thousands of property transactions. I've been involved in hundreds of developments. I've built hundreds of houses for clients. But not only that, you can also learn how to systemize and automate and delegate, your knowledge and experience so that you don't have to work so hard in the future. But also you get access to my team. There's no obligation to use my team, but I've spent the last 15 years building a network of tradespeople, accountants and lawyers and surveyors and hydrological engineers but as well as that, you also get my network of developers and sophisticated investors who then we can draw on and who I trust and depend on. But also you get to avoid painful mistakes. People have paid me, literally paid me thousands of dollars to assess their development for me to tell them that they shouldn't do anything. And they've been so grateful they've spent that money and saved themselves hundreds of thousands of dollars. But also you get to know exactly what to do. I've taken everything that's important from thousands of hours of study and 20 years of work, and I've broken it down to a 12-month program. You're going to learn everything you need to know to achieving your goals, whether that's your mindset or finance or investing or renovation or subdivision, whatever it is, you're going to learn it all. But you get to bounce questions off someone who's been there and done that. You don't need to learn from trial and error. This can save you hundreds of thousands of dollars. And also you get a non-emotion based answer to everything. I don't have an agenda. I'm not your parents. I'm not your partner. I'm not your friends. I'm not your mortgage broker. I'm not your financial planner, your accountant, your real estate agent, your builder. I'm going to tell you what's best for you and not what's best for me. But also importantly, you get held accountable. I want you on board. I really want this, but I've smashed myself to get to where I am. So I take it really seriously. And when I pass this knowledge on to another person, nothing frustrates me more than seeing people given an opportunity and they're not taking advantage of it. You get my system to learn exactly what works, without all the rubbish. I've only got 12 months to bring you up to speed on everything I've learned over the last 20 years. So I'm going to go really fast and focus on only the things that matter. So you get your goals faster and with less stress. The emotional toll that this has had on me over the years, it can't be overstated. The effect it's had on my family, on my friends and my relationships, it's been significant. I don't want you to go through the pain that I've been through to get to where I am right now. I get you out of your problem. What price do you put on setting yourself up financially so you can live the life on your terms, live your life on your terms, and also just plan for your family's future. I'm not just talking about you. I'm talking about setting up your kids and your kids' kids. Creating a legacy for future generations. What value do you put on building a multi-million-dollar property portfolio so you can retire and spend more time with your family? So what's in my program? The first step is the seed system, which is structure, consolidating and refining your existing financial structure. And then secondly, educating yourself. So it's an intensive 12-week program. And then we examine and we assess your current financial situation, determine your borrowing power. And then we map out a complete solution to get you from where you are right now to where you want to be. And then we develop a tailored approach. We act. I then provide support and guidance so you can start to implement your knowledge. And then we can refine and evolve our strategy. And this is it's gonna adapt and change as our parameters change. And then I'm going to assist you with building a team of experts. So they can provide you with support and guidance. And then we can really build knowledge. We can diversify and branch out in other strategies, or, we can start to build on our strong capital base, using our knowledge and experience. And then we can leverage our existing assets to build our portfolio. And finally, we can consolidate and safeguard it. So at this point, we can really start to build momentum, and then we can look at systemizing and automating. So then we can start to scale it up. So all these things I've talked about, everything, this whole 12-month program, my cost for this whole program is $11,997. But on top of that, I'm also going to offer a weekly one-on-one for the first 3 months. That's a one-on-one with me directly, that we can talk specifically about your issues. And then after the first 3 months, we're going to have a monthly one-on-one. Because once that first 3 months is important to set yourself up and get yourself started. And after that, it's really just about me, making sure you're on track. But on top of that, just so you can answer any questions you got along the way, we're also going to have a weekly webinar where all the people in the program can get on there and log in and ask their questions. And then I can answer your question, but also I can answer other people's questions. So you get to learn from other people as well. But also other people can get on there and respond and give you feedback and answers to your questions. And I'm going to also create a Facebook group. This is a closed Facebook group, so it's only people that are part of the program. And this is where you log in and ask your questions for the weekly webinar. But also you can ask questions to other people who are part of the group. Because at the end of the day, I know lots of things, but I know everything. And there's going to be people that have experience and knowledge about other things that they can give their ideas and, recommendations to, retaining a wall guy or a fencing guy or a whole pile of different things. So we can all learn from each other and really build a community. And you're also going to get 24/7 email access to discuss these issues. So you can send me an email and I can either respond back in the weekly webinar or in our one-on-ones, or if it's important, I can give you a call or respond to your email or whatever. So, and on top of that, you're also going to get a success journal. It's going to map out the plan for you. And you're going to get templates of heaps of different things you need to think about, or also checklists on things you need to make sure you've covered. But the reason I like to do this is via webinar, and also do, like Skype and a whole pile of different things. So then we can record everything we talked about. So if you've missed anything, you can go back and watch it again, or as many times as you want it. Or even if you can't make a session, I can always record it and you can watch it another time. But importantly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you how to develop your own property assessments. These property assessments is what I do for people all the time, where I actually look at their property and look at how they can, maximize the best value when they go to sell their property. I'm going to teach you how to do it yourself. I currently charge people money for that, but you're going to learn how to do it for yourself, so you can do it as many times as you want. But the other thing I do for people is something called a property profit report. This is where I analyze their property and work out how they can maximize the return from their property, whether that's developing or renovating or subdividing or there's a whole pile of different options. I go through everything, and it's a couple of 100 pages of information I go through. I charge people $1,000 now to do that. I'm going to teach you how to do that yourself. So you'll be able to do that on whatever property you want. And that's going to be worth thousands of dollars, depending on how many times you do it for yourself. But I'm also going to act as your personal finance consultant. I don't have to be your mortgage broker, but you can use me as a second opinion. You can use your own mortgage broker and then bounce ideas off of me, just to make sure that, you're making your broker accountable. He's giving you the right advice. But I can also act as your buyer's advocate. I can hold your hand through the buying process. I can be a buyer's agent, where I help you negotiate, and that's what I do for clients now, and I charge them money to do that. But you can still go and do that negotiating stuff yourself, but you can just give me a call and I can help give you some tips and advice on the best way to try and get the best value for money. And like I said, I normally charge people 10 grand to do that now. Literally, most people are concerned about charging them money to negotiate, because the amount of money I save them is so much more than the amount of money I cost you. So my advice to you is going to be so much more valuable to you than this program. And also, what I'm going to do is act as your sales consultant. I'm I can act as your real estate agent, and I can be your real estate agent, and I obviously get paid a commission to do that. But I can just give you tips on how to try and sell your house, and you can either decide to sell it yourself, or you can obviously engage a real estate agent. But whether that's me or another real estate agent, I can give you the best way to try and sell your house for the most amount of money in the shortest possible time. But I'm gonna also be your personal development consultant. If you're going through the process of subdividing, what do you need to think about? What's the stages? What's next? What do I have to consider to make sure I don't get myself into trouble? I charge people, at least $5,000 or more to manage the process of subdividing for and act as their project manager, I suppose. I'm going to teach you how to do that yourself. All the things you need to think about. So obviously, if you just do one development, that's worth $5,000. But if you do, 10 developments, that's worth $50,000. So this is the thing. The value in this is so much more the more times you do it. And finally, I'm going to give you access to joint venture opportunities. This is going to allow, in a situation, you can go out and source joint venture, source development sites and then pass it through to a developer. And really the limit is up to you, up to your own possibilities, I suppose. Really, if you find a development site that's worth $100,000, why wouldn't a developer pay you, $5,000 just to refer it through to them? If you're going to find a development site that's worth $1 million, how much is the developer going to pay you to source that development? So the total value of all these things is well in excess of $79,000. And my program is going to give you all these plus all these bonuses for just $11,997. Honestly, earning money from this program is not my main focus. My goal is to train a group of people with the knowledge, skills and expertise, so we can work together to form, and then we can form joint ventures. As this is where we have the greatest potential. This is where we can earn massive returns, not just for you, but also for me. But I want to make sure that those who enroll are laser focused on achieving their goals, and they're committed to making this happen. In my experience, no one values free advice, and without making a financial commitment, people rarely follow through. And initially, I'm really only focused on training up to 5 people. However, I'm looking for I want to work with them going forward, and I really want to make sure that they're the right fit. Because achieving success with these people, it's more important than the cost of the course. My intention is to use these people as examples of, this is what's possible by following my investing principles. I think there's no better form of marketing than proven results and proving success for those that have been through the program. Because the success of these initial few people is my highest priority. I'm initially going to, because of this, I'm initially going to be very particular on who joins the program. So I suppose I better outline who I'm looking for. Firstly, you may need to reconsider everything you thought you knew about making money from property. You need to open your eyes to a new way of looking at things. For some of you, this is going to be very difficult. After years of being locked in a room with no escape, it can be terrifying when someone unlocks the door. It can take enormous bravery to take that first step. But once you do, you wonder, why you've stayed there for so long. And secondly, you must be an action taker. If you want to kick tires or just chat about property and not follow through, then this is not for you. Achieving success for my clients is very important to me. So you need to be someone who is willing to learn and serious about getting results. And that's it. So if we meet both these requirements, then we're all good. So only for those of you who fit the criteria of what I'm looking for, I'm going to offer the complete program plus all the bonuses for just $5,997. One extra thing to get you started, you're going to need access to the data that the professionals use to analyze the market. And otherwise, you're going to be acting in a distinct disadvantage to other investors. So I'm going to include access to the CoreLogic or RP data software, which is Australia's most comprehensive source of property data and insights and analytics, which I personally spend $6,000 per year for an annual subscription. No serious investor would even think about investing without access to this software. So if you're thinking about purchasing the software, then you can essentially do this and get my complete program and all the bonuses for free. Now it's time to make a decision. And I want you guys to freely choose. My team and I have set aside some time in the next 48 hours to speak with you personally about how you can apply some of these ideas we've just talked about and how to get to where you want to be. So if you're interested, I'll get you to book a quick 10-minute call for me to ask you a few questions so I can get to know you a bit more. But if we seem like a fit, then I'm going to book another call where we can talk for longer and then go into more detail about the process and what's involved. In our session together, we're not only going to discuss your situation right now and where you want to get to, but we're going to begin sketching out a plan for the best way to get you there. After our discussion, you'll begin to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And then I want to give you a roadmap for how you can implement a strategy so we can craft the perfect plan for achieving your goals. We're going to have a conversation with you to discuss not only what I've shared with you today, but how it can apply to you. Okay, so I want to share with you how you can apply. There's going to be a link below, and I want you to click on the link below, and that's going to take you to organizing an appointment with my team. But before we finish, I want to leave you this. I want to leave you with this. When I started developing property 12 years ago, I started on this journey. I just left my job as an accountant. I was taking on this massive risk, and I just kept taking massive risks, over and over and over again. Some nights I would come home and I'd wonder, how am I going to get through this? Sometimes I literally had no idea what I was doing. It was like I learned everything the hard way. I'd learned the hard way in everything. I'd learned the slow, hard, long, expensive way. Even when I'm sitting here, I know you guys are sitting on a webinar, but I'm literally talking to myself. I wish someone had reached out to me and said, I'll show you step by step how to create value from property, and then build on it to not only set myself up, but to set my family up for the future. The future that we deserve without all the risk and stress of having a risk at all. I wish I'd had someone who'd found me and told me how I could do it. Then I wouldn't have had to spend 12 years, trying to work it out on my own. But in the end, it happened the way I did, and now I've got a really solid understanding of what it takes. And not only that, but I'm now lucky enough to teach others and literally change people's lives. For me, it's awesome. It's really rewarding. It's allowed me to live a life that I want and to help others and help others achieve their goals. So I just want to thank you. And if you've made it this far through the webinar, hopefully you found it interesting. And I want to encourage you to reach out and see how this might apply to you and how you can achieve your goals. And I want to thank you for your time today, because I know that everyone is really busy and we never have enough time, but I truly believe the time we spent today, it's going to make a difference. And I wish you all the best on your journey. And for those that get in touch, I'm really excited about the next steps. And for everyone else, you can check out my website, and it's got heaps of articles and video blogs and guides. It's going to guide you through a whole range of topics. And hopefully then you're going to minimize some of your chances of making too many mistakes along the way. So thanks so much for being here, and I look forward to catching you guys soon. Thanks, guys.